Welcome back, everyone, to Blame the Funnel. Today, we will live optimize one funnel that you guys gave us. Thank you so much. Peter Sandin is in the house, Simon Severino in the house, and we got over a dozen funnels from you guys. Today, we will look at the funnel of a nonprofit organization and come up with ideas on how to improve those conversions. So thank you guys for the funnels. And if you want to send us your next funnels, where can people send their next funnel ideas, Peter?
I think most people can find our emails. Just join our email lists and you'll be able to respond and
All right,
submit those
that's
that
Peter
way.
Sandin, and it's Simon Severino. All right, today we jump into the funnel of this nonprofit called Equip Kids. EquipOurKids.org helps kids. Now, let's see, what is the help? Who is it for? What is it for? The first two questions that we have. So let's go to the main page and see if from the first 10 seconds, Peter, do you know who this is for and what this is for?
Barely. It is kind of clear that, well, this is something to do with helping kids. And I mean, the headline, How to Grow Kids to Be Amazing Adults, it kind of gives a context, but I'd argue this is very vague and certainly would benefit from being much more specific and explicit about what this is. If you start reading through all of the text, you'll get a better idea of what it is, but I wouldn't expect people to read that much to understand if this is something they really want to help or not.
Yeah, my first question is, am I the parent? Am I the school? Am I a corporation? Who am I? Are you speaking to me or are you speaking to somebody else? So, because if I'm watching something and I don't have the clear feeling this is speaking to me, then I feel like a voyeur, somebody who's watching something that I'm not supposed to watch. And so I move on. But if I'm looking at something and go, oh, this is speaking to me, then I stay. So I would need at this stage something that says, hey, parent, do you want your kids to be equipped to do da 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 da? Or, hey, parent, have you experienced this? Your kid is in this situation and oh my God, this happens. It can be just the image of a kid getting bullied. I'm a parent, so I have kids who get bullied at school or, can become bullies. And so if you have one image of that, you got me immediately. That touches us so deeply. We don't want our kids to be bullied or to bully anybody. And so if there is something that can help with that, oh my God, you got my attention.
I was about to say the same thing in a different way, but the way that I would frame it is that the way that this now comes across is it's a nice to have. It's an improvement on something already acceptably good. And that means very few people are going to be very captivated by it. Whereas if it is, I mean, a very crude way to showcase this idea is that, well, if UNICEF is asking for donations and they show a picture of someone who is clearly perfectly healthy but doesn't have access to the best ice cream, and they ask, hey, could you donate so that this kid could get better ice cream? Very few people are going to give money for it. But if they show a clearly starving kid, a lot of people will give money to it. And yes, it's a crude example, but kind of similarly, the way that everything is presented, the feeling that the website now gives off. I mean, initially, yes, you get a better idea once you read, but the first feeling you get is, well, this is a nice idea, kind of like better ice cream. It doesn't give this sense of like, oh, this is actually important. This is like, I need to really pay attention, and it's tugging at my heartstrings. That just doesn't come across, at least not very quickly. And if it doesn't happen quickly, it kind of might as well not happen at all. And that's at least one of the main optimization methods that every website can employ. But the more emotional the thing you sell, and nonprofits by definition almost always are emotional, the more emotional it is, the better the results tend to be.
And it's fascinating because it is so emotional and it is so relevant, yet the emotion and the relevancy don't come across in the first 10 seconds of us being here. Right, so there's a ton of potential here. That's the good news. Keep our kids. We can work with this. We have to select who is it for, what is it for, and maybe there are 3 entry points. One for me if I'm a parent, one for me if I'm school, one for me if I am a corporation. So depending on who your ideal client is, and when we say ideal client, we like to define the ideal client 5 levels deep, 5 level what makes them an ideal client, and 5 level the opposite. So 5 levels deep could be our ideal donor, in this case, client is donor. Our ideal donor is in a city, not in an urban environment. They are, they have these values and not those values. They are interested in A versus B. The size of their budget, of their donation, is it small or big? So you can go 5 levels deep and even define technology, hobbies, what they care about, what else they care about. And by doing that, now you are targeting your communication. So instead of a love letter abroad to who it may concern, now you're talking to, hey, you, Peter. And now when I'm on the other side, I go, oh, they're talking to me. But you only get this effect if you really define 5 levels deep, who is the ideal donor, and 5 levels deep, who is it not? And based on that, then we go and select the testimonials. If we look at the social proof, because now we need the social proof, right? Are they legit? Can we trust them? What do we do with our money? What do we do with our kids? So if we look for testimonials, there are some testimonials. We have to scroll a lot before we get to testimonials. And so I would probably make the next section already testimonials, because it took us now, how long? 7, 8 seconds until we find George Lucas and the Lego Foundation. So those are big, prominent people, but what they say is not about you guys. So George Lucas says social emotional learning has the skills that we find make people successful over the long haul. Yeah, that's again a very general phrase. He doesn't say, I sent my kids to Equip for Kids, right? The Lego Foundation is now a foundation. That's better if it's an actual person, name, surname, and what they say, right? What else do you see, Peter?
Well, first off, just one slight note. There was sort of a testimonial video in the middle of the page. The title was Sell, like SEL in action. You scrolled past it, but the fact that you're able to scroll past it is a bad sign. We also approached the target customer a little differently, but definitely agree on it should be clearer who the target audience is, so that you're then able to communicate more effectively. And if you have multiple different audiences, like in this case, I think the obvious ones are the parents, the schools, and the businesses, and arguably also maybe the students themselves. The way that it's now set up on the website, they have pages for parents, pages for students, and pages for businesses, but nothing that I would have immediately found for schools. But yeah, if you have multiple, then it may very well be reasonable to start off by segmenting it directly and forcing people to self-select which group they belong to, so that you're then able to build a page that is actually relevant for that audience specifically, make it immediately clear how they can benefit. So for example, companies that are looking at nonprofits tend to do it not just for altruistic reasons, although that is certainly possible, but they also look at it as, well, how could it help us? What sort of credibility or branding value could we get out of this? What kind of exposure would this create? What kind of PR would this create? That's a very different content or very different stuff to put on a page than what you would tell parents. Very few parents are thinking of, are they going to have my name somewhere so that people think I'm great? That's the message is so different for these different groups that I think it would kind of, well, I would approach it as how can we immediately segment people, the visitors, based on what they're actually representing, what group they belong to, so that we can make the page that they then see much more relevant for them. The way that I look at these pages, beyond, I mean, yes, target customer is one of the obvious ones first, but then looking at it from that person's or that type of person's perspective and ask some questions. And the first one of those is it very clear what this is about, what I can get? And I would argue not very, kind of, but it's kind of hazy. And the second question is, does it feel really, really relevant for me? And that's where things tend to fall apart if you don't segment based on the type of visitor in this type of case where you have very distinct types of groups coming there. And
So
hence,
right
I
here,
would
you
generally
would
divide.
create 3 entry points, right, for the 3 different ideal clients. And that can be just a small thing that says, hey, parents, if you're looking for this, or hey, institutions, if you're looking for the best way to put your capital to work. And then they would self-select. So they enter, then they click it and they enter a page that speaks specifically to them. Like you say, the parents would want to see themselves maybe there, or see different kids. What kind of kids are these? And then other parents. So the testimonials they would select based on other parents that says, "Oh, it's so cool that my kids are here. This is the difference it made for them." Maybe in some specific situations, right? And the corporations would see, okay, who else is here? Which other corporations do I want to be associated with? And which ones do I don't want to be associated with? That's where the exercise of the 5 level steep comes in, because now you can understand them better. Who are these corporations? Who do they want to be associated with based on their values? What else they find important? What else they do? And then you can select the testimonials based on those. If you know, oh, these logos don't go well together, they have very different values, you select other testimonials from your pool of testimonials. Okay,
Yeah.
so in the beginning, we want to segment and then have one page for each of them. What else?
Well, the next things that I would look at is it very clear to people that this is valuable? Like, do they actually associate a lot of value to it? And that, again, all of this has to happen within the first, I don't know, 5 seconds or so. But as a pair to that question, how badly do they want it? Do they want it so badly that they're motivated to actually jump through the hoops they need to jump through to make it happen? And that's another thing where nonprofits very traditionally struggle significantly. Many other companies too, or many other types of organizations too, but nonprofits tend to be pretty bad at it. Or they are one of the big nonprofits that actually do well because they are able to make that connection well. It's a very abstract issue here, but reading through the page very quickly, and that's how I would always evaluate these sorts of things. If someone just skims through, what do they actually gather from it? And it's pretty unclear what would happen if I gave money. Like, yeah, if you actually read through the whole site and really dig into it, you'll understand. Or if you go to the donate page, you'll get a bit of a better idea of it. But the fact that it takes active effort to actually understand what would happen if I spent money, it really doesn't create the sense of, oh, I want this. Like, this is something I really want, because I can't define what it is that I would get. And of course, again, it's a very different thing for a corporation or for an individual or for a school. So looking at it from the perspective of what would truly motivate them to take steps forward, what would motivate them so much that they're going to jump through some hoops, it can help, or it's sort of a necessary thing for you to do, to figure out, are you talking about things that have any chance of being effective? And if it isn't clear within the first 5 seconds or so, it probably doesn't work. Because if people don't get the sense of like, oh, this page is great, I really want something from here, they're probably just going to leave. Exceptions exist. If someone hears from their best friend that like, hey, Equip Our Kids is a great organization, go check it out, yeah, obviously you're going to spend a few minutes reading it, even if it is kind of vague and hard to understand. But if it is someone else, someone who didn't get that sort of a referral to it, if it isn't clear within a few seconds what it is that you can actually get in the end, what kind of a difference you can make, not just in general, like help kids, but in terms of like
What
you can
happens if you
buy
do nothing?
this
Yeah.
specific thing that is going to stop this many bullying cases, which is going to stop this many kids from committing suicide. Like now you got me. Now you're talking about something tangible enough for me to feel like, okay, I'm willing to spend money on this sort of a thing. It's a different question how much money, but like it's at least something I want enough to make something happen for it.
Yes. And I would pick something that is in the collective's mind right now. So, for example, right now in the US, you have this very strong emotional situations where videos of young people that have experienced incredibly violent assaults, and that everybody's touched by, and everybody is deeply, deeply touched by. And so, if we can do anything to change that, so if it's just it says, oh, there will be a module about how to quickly see patterns in a social situation, then immediately everybody goes, oh my God, if they equip kids with pattern recognition or how to, um, you know, uh, understand how to read the room, how to understand where you are, how to find safety and protection in an open environment, then that might immediately click, and it can be very very short, but then it clicks immediately, and it creates this situation that you're saying, what happens if it's missing? What happens if I do nothing? Oh, if I do nothing, I'm not equipping society to do this, the people in society who need it the most. So sometimes it makes sense with PR and with marketing to link it to something that everybody understands, and that is the elephant in the room right now. And it can be a very short mention or a very short image, and it works. The second thing is that how was it possible that I glossed over the big testimonial video? And if we look at it, it is easy to gloss over because it's not called my daughter came back transformed, or this is what changed at home. It is called SEL in action, and I don't know what SEL stands for, so I don't have a reason to click it. And then the thumbnail itself, it's very small in with very small contrast. It says parents, how this skill helped my kids, but I didn't even see that. I saw three nice faces, but I didn't even see the copy. So the thumbnail needs more contrast and needs something. This is the art of thumbnail. Um, Look at YouTube thumbnails or at Netflix series thumbnails. It's a few words and they are strong and they stand out. So yes, you can have those faces in the background, but then something in the text would need to attract me. So that would be big yellow letters saying um, how these 7 kids came back changed, for example. Then I would click it. What would you need here, Peter, to actually click it instead of glossing over it?
Well, what you suggested would probably work. My go-to solution for this sort of a context would probably be that I would have 3 separate videos with their own titles, as in like headlines above the videos, not just in the thumbnails, that would describe either the problem that the kids that are referenced in the video were experiencing, or the outcome, the change that happened once they went through the SEL, which I think is social and emotional learning. But yeah, basically, like I would just make it so that it's harder to miss, which is what you were talking about as well. But using phrases like SEL in action is, again, I don't think that the phrase social and emotional learning is used anywhere on the page before that point. I might have glossed over it, but I think oh no, it is referenced in one part of the page before that. But it's a very easy spot to miss. So it is reasonable that a lot of people don't know what SEL stands for at that point on the page, which obviously, big problem. But
And
yeah,
reduce the
overall, I think
legwork.
that the page is not very engaging. It doesn't create this pull. It doesn't make me want to read the next part. There's the old copywriting advice of like every sentence you write, the main goal of it is to make people want to read the next sentence. And that doesn't happen here. Whoever wrote this wrote just fine text, but it's not very effective copywriting, in my opinion.
Yes, how can we reduce the legwork and make it easy for them? So if there is a video, that means we're asking for a lot of time. Some we have to think about their time conditions. Maybe they don't have time. They're busy people, right? If they're parents, they're busy. If they're corporations, they're busy. So how can we reduce the legwork? This is how we do it on our website. If we want them to watch a video about Chanel talking about how she generated revenue with Innisprint, then the thumbnail already sums it up. So if you just look at these 3 seconds, you know what's in there. And then if you click it, you see the whole video, but you don't have to. This is how you reduce legwork. Now, if they have time and they are properly sitting and they want to watch the whole video, they can click it and watch it. But the thumbnail, if you want to reduce legwork, make it in a way that you see immediately, okay, who is this? What is this about? So that if they don't have time, they still get the message without having a few minutes to watch the video.
I do basically the same thing on my website. I pull out typically one sentence out of a testimonial or case study and just use that as the title of the case study. It could even be just a paraphrased sentence or something that describes the outcome. Because yeah, a lot of people are just going to skim through those instead of actually reading them. But hopefully if they read the headline that says that, yeah, we saw 20x growth in 2 years, then that's a lot more than if they would have just read case study number 7. Plus, it's way more likely that people then want to read, well, how did you create that sort of results? So yeah, make it something that is skimmable. Right now, this page doesn't have too much text. To be clear, that's not the point that I'm at least making. There can be even way more text, but it should be easier to skim. It should be pulling me into the text at more points. Whereas now it is not exactly a wall of text, but kind of a wall of text at many points. It doesn't have anything that would pull me in if I've lost interest at some point.
Mm-hmm. And now on the other side, what if I am very intrigued? What do I do next? So what's the call to action? Let's say it speaks to me and I go, oh yeah, let's do it. There is here a call to action, equip plus skills videos. Let's see what happens. I land at a page with a lot of
I'm pretty sure there are 6 different calls to action on this page. I might be wrong. I haven't clicked all of them. Maybe some of them are the same, but I think there are 6 different calls to action. The first is to the skills videos. The second one is something called Family Emotional Health Toolkit. Then there's Parents Newsletter. Then there's a full classroom teaching, a video about what are the EQ skills, and then a SEL and parent values. So as a general rule, which you can break, but as a general rule, on a page you should only have one primary call to action that you probably repeat multiple times on the page. There's examples, again, where you can have multiples, but having only one primary call to action is a pretty good guideline. At least you're not going to do something really dumb if you have one primary one. You can have secondary ones that are, let's say, grayed out or just much less prominent. But if a person reads through the page, it should not be difficult for them to decide what to do next. It should feel like the most obvious thing ever. If you've done it well, the one primary thing you ask them to do just feels like the natural next step. Right now, that is not quite the case with, I think, I'm not sure if it's the case with almost any of these where it would somehow naturally set up the next thing, that it's like the page doesn't naturally set me up to want to do the thing, that it then offers me a button to do it with, which most likely reduces the conversion rates pretty drastically.
If we backwards engineer, what do we want them to do? And I think that's what the team needs to do, right? To write down what do you want them to do. Maybe we want to have a call scheduled with them. So if that is, they schedule a call with us, what do they need before? Maybe they can schedule it immediately. Then the call to action is, let's talk. And it's a button to a calendar where they can immediately, then this would be 5-6 times, let's talk. If it's something else, like, hey, watch this video where we explain in 4 minutes how this works, then the call to action can lead directly to that video. But it's important that you backward engineer what do you want them to do. And now, like Peter says, the call to action is the next logical step. So if you want them to talk to you, the call to action is book a call. If you want them to go through a form or to find out if it's the right thing for them, then they go through a quiz or through something that helps them find out. Might be completely survey.
Yeah, like backtracking, I think, is often the most easy way to do it, or easiest way to do it. And just, I don't know if I explained it very well, but the point that I'm trying to make is specifically that the next step you ask people to make should be the step that feels the most natural for them to make at that point. As in, leaving would feel very unnatural compared to taking the step you ask them to take. So
you have an example?
therefore you can then think of, well, what would they need to be told so that the exact thing they want to do, even if you didn't give them the option, they would be like, hey, why can't I do this thing? That's how you set up the call to action so that it actually works. And I'm not saying it's very easy. That's what good copywriting is about. But I think a lot of people don't think it that way, because it's like chronological order is kind of a natural one. We start from the beginning and then, well, this leads to this thing and then to this thing. And then at the end, we just slap in the call to action. And it doesn't work if the previous steps haven't made it so that everyone already wants to do what the call to action then gives them an option to do. That's how I approach it, at least, that the call to action should feel something like people should be missing it if it isn't there. That's how natural it should feel.
There's one more. Send me SEL tips I can use
But
at
to be
home.
fair, I think that is the same as the one for join the parents email newsletter. At least I would guess that those are the same. Hence I'm saying 6, not 7. But yeah, there's a lot.
And if you dig deeper, you see that there is a segmentation into parents, students, and businesses. But the contrast is so low and it's kind of hidden small up there that would need to be more prominent in here.
Yeah, and if we go back to the original idea of sort of forcing people to self-select, I mean forcing in the sense that the first thing they see is pretty much a question of, are you a parent, school, or business? Because now the obvious first thing people see is the headline, and then they start looking down from there. They don't go up into the navigation bar. So anyway, just to be clear that even if the navigation bar was really obtrusive, it still wouldn't do what we were talking about.
Because our attention gets pulled here and then down. We wouldn't much see it here.
Yeah, no.
Then there is donate. Let's see if this is the main call to action. Because in the end, they want them to donate, right?
I would assume so.
Very small text. Make it easier for people to read. So make it bigger. Most people will have a hard time read this. And also imagine that probably more than half of the people are reading this on their phone. So make it mobile friendly, bigger font.
Yeah, it might not be too bad on a mobile device. It's hard to tell because some of the styling might be different on a computer screen. But yes, it should be mobile friendly. But the main problem that I would look at is though that I don't immediately get told what it is that the money will buy. And it like, yes, if you really read through this again, you will be able to get a better sense of it. But it doesn't make me immediately have this like, that's the thing I'm going to get if I put money here or give money here. That's the thing that someone is going to, this is the result that's going to happen, or this is the thing someone gets. And as long as it stays on this very abstract level, again, I'm not saying that it is technically abstract, because if you read every word, you'll get a better sense of what it is. But if the immediate sense isn't a concrete thing, it just doesn't work very well. And it also makes the whole thing harder to trust, which is the last part of my like 6 questions. If the first one is like, is it clear what this is about? Is it relevant for me? Is it valuable? Do I really want it? The last 2 questions are, do I actually trust this? And is it worth the risk? If I at all have this like hazy feeling of what would happen if I put money here, no one's gonna do it. So like, imagine if someone said that, well, I'm gonna send you clothes if you buy. And it's like, wait, but what clothes? What do they look like? What size are they? Like, obviously no one would buy. And again, I'm not saying it's that bad here, but if the immediate sense isn't something clear, it's hard to trust it or have this sense of security about it. I don't think anyone's going to think that, oh, it's a scam, but it doesn't create this sense of like, I will definitely be like, this will definitely make a positive difference. If I don't really even quite understand what it is that I'm paying for, then how could I feel like this is definitely going to make a big positive impact?
So the good news is this site can be much simplified, right? There is a lot going on here, but there are only a few things that are actually needed, right? In the beginning, segmenting here on the top level here. Who is this for? What is it for? Then they enter their part, either parents, students, or businesses. They enter into their page, and then probably they need just one page. Who are the others? What happens if you do nothing? Why can you trust us, right? Who else trusts us? And they call to action. And the call to action leads them directly to what you want them to do. If you want them to talk to you, put the calendar link in there. If you want them to watch something, the page has that video on top. If you want them to go through a survey or quiz, then there's the survey directly there. And double check with Peter's checklist that it feels natural for them to do the next step. This sounds simple, right? And maybe you can just write it down and do it. Then I think we help them a lot, Peter. If they need help, where can they find help? How can they contact you, for example?
Well, you can find me from petersendine.com. That's I'm very imaginative with my domain name, but yeah, I mean, the like with usually the way that I approach website improvement projects is to change as little as possible, and I would again argue that you don't need to change that many things, but some of the things that you would need to change are like structural changes for how the website is just what pages are there and how they are stringed together. So as much as I hate to say it, because I would rather make the smallest possible changes to see the biggest differences, but in this case I would argue that just switching a headline here and another there isn't going to do a whole lot. If you want to multiply the donations, it would require a bit more work. On the other hand, you can see that as a very good thing. There are very clear steps you can take, not necessarily very easy, but fairly simple steps you can take to probably multiply the donations you get very, very reliably. It's not a high risk, low impact thing, but very, very likely to work. So, I mean, it seems like it's a great cause. I think teaching better emotional skills would be a fantastic thing for kids. As someone who would have certainly benefited from that as a kid, it would have been cool if someone actually taught these things instead of having to figure it out by looking at how things happen. It would have been a whole lot easier if someone came and like, okay, let's study how this stuff works. But yeah, at the moment, I would say that the website doesn't do a very good job in almost any of these categories. It doesn't answer any of the 6 questions very compellingly, which is, yeah, unfortunate, but it also means that there's a whole lot you can improve and get
That's
much, much better results.
that's a hook right there. Equip them with this instead of letting them figure it out over decades on their own. That's a strong enough contrast that might be used already. I would go the other way around. I would create a completely new one. It takes probably 3 hours. We kind of laid out what should be on there. I think we could build this in 3 hours, and then, but that's the smaller part. Of course, either you simplify this one or you build it quickly new. But then the more interesting part is every Friday measuring which activities brought which views, which clicks, and which opt-ins. That's the part where you get actually going with it, because now you try different things. Okay, let's post on LinkedIn, let's send an email about it, let's go on a stage and talk about it. And then you start measuring each Friday, okay, what happened? How many people clicked this? Oh, nobody clicked that. Why not? And so you say, oh, we need more contrast, or the button broke. And so, and also linking it to something that pings you. This person just downloaded that, or that person booked a time with you, gives that flow back to the team who spent hours building this. And now they get these little wins. Oh, cool. The website is working. Somebody booked a call. Oh, nice. And so even if you are not the person who is answering that call, but maybe it's a team of 6 that are working on these marketing messages, and even they get a little applause. Oh my God, the thing that I've been building, the new thumbnail, the new button, it works. And I think that's important.
One note about that, we're on the same page about it. But one note that I think a lot of people easily think is that, well, we don't get enough data to actually measure it every week. And yes, that can be true, but something that helps a lot is a higher conversion rate. So I'm simplifying a little, but if your website now converts 1 out of 10,000 visitors, it's going to take you hundreds of thousands of visitors to see significant signals on what is working and what isn't. Whereas if your website converts 10% of visitors, then you can get very clear signals with only a few hundred, not hundreds of thousands of visitors. So it's one of these things that comes up a lot, that people are just saying that, well, I couldn't measure every week because there's nothing to, like, it doesn't show me anything. And that can be true, but it is also often a signal of just too low conversion rates for the volume that you're working with. Because the fewer visitors you get, or the fewer leads you get, or the fewer prospects you get, the fewer sales meetings you get, the higher the conversion rates need to be for you to get any reasonable data in a reasonable time frame. So in this case, I would say that, yeah, fix the website, whether you build a whole new one or tweak what is here, even though I think it requires pretty substantial tweaking. I would say that it makes sense to start there. And then, yes, look at what you get every week or every day or whatever is a good cadence. But yeah, the higher the conversion rates, the easier it is to get actual data to look at.
Yes. So one is what's the minimum data that we need, and it can be very, very small. Like we track sometimes just 3 clicks, 5 clicks, 10 clicks, but that tells us something. So we just want to learn. It doesn't the numbers don't really matter. What we want to see is it better than A? So it's always an A/B test. Is this better than this? Is this better than last week? And the default A/B test is always this week to last week, because we measure every Friday. And so tiny data is fine. What happens sometimes, as you say, is, well, but we didn't input anything. So now you have only organic traffic, and that's not enough. That's not enough for most teams listening, just organic search. You need to do something. And this is when we then look at the teams and say, okay, what are the marketing activities, sales activities that happened this week? Oh, no, we didn't post anything this week. And then you go, oh, okay, well, we will need some inputs. So Who is going to post? How often are you guys going to post? Well, we plan to write a blog every 3 weeks. That's not the cadence of 2025. And then it's better to do things smaller but more often, like, and make the posts from weekly to daily on socials, the emails, making them from every 2 weeks to weekly or even 2 per week, the YouTube videos, maybe making them once per week instead of one every second week. And so that's the cadence that the team has to find for themselves, and it's much smaller than you think, and it's much higher than you think usually.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of teams should just post more often to get more frequent data. But just because I know that someone might misunderstand this, we're not saying that you should post 50 pieces of content per day, which might sound absurd, but some prominent people say that that's a good strategy. It is. I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad strategy, but it's certainly not the only reasonable way to go. But yeah, you do need to get enough data. And what I'm trying to say is that the higher the conversion rates, the more clear the data is, and or the bigger the difference in conversion rates between things you do, the less data you need to make good decisions based on it.
Yeah.
Getting 3 clicks or 5 clicks can be enough if the other time you got 400 clicks. It's super clear that the 3 clicks is worse. And yes, there are cases where 3 versus 5 can be significant. I think we're talking about slightly different things, and I want to try to separate those so that it doesn't get confusing for someone who might not have thought of the data in this level of depth on like where do you get the statistical significance from and so on.
In this case, how many people are working on this marketing team? Let's say it's 4 people, 5 people. So the discussion will be, okay, next week, who's going to talk on a physical stage? And one says, yeah, I'm going to talk on the physical stage. Okay, which call to action are you going to test? I'm going to test this call to action. Okay, cool. What's your B to the A? Okay, I'm going to test this. Okay, so we have 2 things to measure. What are you guys going to do? I'm going to post on socials. Okay, how many in per week, and what's your call to action? They define something. And then the third person says, no, I prefer going on to podcasts. I have kids, so I want to stay home, but I can go on 2 podcasts next week. Can I have a budget for that? Or can I have time resources for that? Yeah, sure, do it. And so now they have defined 3 things. One will post, one will go on a physical stage and test the call to action, and one will go on a digital stage and test the call to action. So this is the conversation that is important during the week. So now on Friday, you have something to measure, and that data can be tiny. Can be just, I talked in front of 20 people, 2 clicked it, 1 downloaded. Fine. But we have something to work with, right? So the next week can be the next experiment and optimizing based on what they learned.
Definitely.
All right, guys, thank you for sending in this funnel. We will work every week one more funnel and helping you guys find ideas on how to optimize your funnel. If you want to send in even more funnels, Peter Sandin, Simon Severino, we're happy to catch even more funnels. And see you next week, everyone.
All right.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com.